Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy Shieldcoomer, aka Sirigath, and today we're going to be doing a lovely little Court of Stars plus 20 on Tyrannical. Honestly, a pretty chill key. One important thing to note regarding the talents, I showed you guys my talents earlier. It's a pretty standard build with just one tiny variation. That variation is basically power word solace. It's not really that big of a change. I've just basically removed one level of a talent, which it's the one, I forgot what it's called, but it's the one that increases the damage, the healing done by atonement when you're casting shadow spells. I just felt like it's, at least for the purpose of what I'm doing so far, unnecessary. It is definitely nice to have, but I don't know what else I would drop for it, so I decided to drop it. You can probably drop something else as well. It really, I think, is mostly personal preference. You could also, for certain dungeons, I think, unless you're purposefully needing 2 pain suppressions, you can maybe drop that as well. But I personally think that it's nice to have 2 pain subs. You can use them as a defensive tool for your teammates on heavy AoE mechanics. You can use them as a defensive mechanic for yourself at the end of the day, or for somebody else if like they're targeted, single target by something, or you can simply use it for tank. The more you use power word shield, the more value you get out of it. So right now in our build, we are honestly not even utilizing power word shield that much, which is complete opposite of what our build used to be before 10.0.5 hit. Honestly, power word shield nowadays is mostly used for just like emergency, kind of like that, like preventing somebody from dying real quick so you can heal them with something else. Or for tank I use it mostly, or as an atonement applier, or for your tier set if you have a 4 set. Other than that, it's not as powerful as it was, because we're not going anymore on the left side of the spec tree. We're going on the right side of the spec tree, which mostly focuses on the Shadow Covenant and the power word shield. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it's, you know, power word shield is kind of like a staple of our spec, but unfortunately it's not really used that much at the moment. It's not like our most powerful ability. Obviously that changes when you press your button called Rupture. Other than that though, it is pretty chill. Regardless, just wanted to kind of say that's my build variation for this. And not specifically for this dungeon, it's just something I changed recently, and I've been like playing whole Tyrannical week with it, and I'm loving it. It really helps your overall mana. It does a lot, and honestly, losing 10% of the healing from your shadow spells, as I said, I personally don't really notice it much. I feel like maybe the only time I would play it is if I specifically know there's gonna be a mechanic where I might be needing that 10%. Something like maybe Knockwound Offensive for the second boss and for the 4th boss, or maybe, but honestly that happens in such a tiny burst window for us. Like that 10% really isn't that much, and honestly power word solace is just one more spell that we can press that's instant, and it also gives us back mana. So I don't know, just personal thing. Like I think you can also get away without playing power word solace completely fine. It's just I wanted to try it out 1 week with it, and I like it, and so far I haven't really felt like I needed extra healing at any point. Like, extra healing is always nice, you know, for some lenience, but most of the time where I lack healing isn't because I'm actually lacking healing, it's because I'm forced not to heal by certain mechanics. I'll give you an example of this. Ruby has been absolutely horrible. Ruby life pools with Quaking on the last boss, together with his interrupting winds, and then Quaking on top of that, you just never get to cast anything. It's really painful, and then you have to move because of the fire, and then the winds push you, and then again 2 interrupts. It's really awful. I'm tilted because Ruby life pulls. Sorry guys. I hopefully I'll manage to time one this week just to kind of show you. I've had like multiple close calls, but I just can't get it done. It's not just me though, it's also, you know, the team and what they're doing and stuff, but you know, it hurts doing a whole dungeon correctly and then losing because you like wipe twice on the final boss because it's
Quelling stress.
really difficult to
Suppress.
heal, and people think like you're a resto druid and you can just casually do like 60k HPS
Charging
while
station.
moving, you know, which isn't
Charged
the case for
smash.
us. We
Fortification.
very hampered because
Fortification.
like most of our throughput comes when we pop that, you know, buffed penance, especially with Shadow Covenant, when you like put atonements on everyone and then you pop your like Shadow Covenant and then you like Schism penance. That's crazy amount of healing for us, but it's just impossible to set it up and to do it properly on Ruby. But yeah, point is I think the talent is good, but it's unnecessary, the one with the dark healing. So I just took away one level basically, so it's 10% instead of 20%. As I said, it's a pretty big loss, but it's not needed, so I think it's better like this. Also, what Power Solace does is it allows us to kind of like weave in like that one extra damage spell when Purge the Wicked is still on high stacks, but we want to proc it for the dark spell, you know, it's pretty nice to have.
4.
Anyway, here, I mean, this boss, you know,
2.
honestly, the main
Arcane
mechanic
lockdown.
you have to pay attention on this boss is trees. It's the hardest mechanic on this
Resonance
fight. How to not get stuck on
Signal
trees,
beacon.
because the camera always ends up being in the trees and it's just
Street
impossible
sweeper.
to play. Blizzard, please fix. I don't know what they're
Slash.
doing, but this is giving me heavy
Street
like
sweeper.
Sanguine Depth vibes. Like I can't see what I'm doing, so it's really annoying. It just really is
Arcane
annoying.
lockdown.
So
Sweeper.
please, it would be nice if we can do something about it. But yeah, overall, boss is
Resonant
easy.
slash.
I mean, not much to be said. Be careful not to pull stuff.
sweeper.
I have a tendency to pull extra trash when I'm doing this boss because I'm running around like a lunatic trying to
Street
clear and
sweeper.
stuff. Don't do that.
Resonant
Obviously,
slash.
you know, dodge these frontals. They're pretty visible
Street sweeper.
nowadays, so just make sure you're watching out for that. Just make sure you're dodging. Watch out for the Quaking.
Arcane lockdown.
As you can see, like with a quick mass dispel, this really should not
Resonant
be an
slash.
issue. Like Quaking shouldn't present you any issue. As you can see,
Street
you have
sweeper.
enough time to do it. And just blast, just deal damage. I mean, we can do a lot of
Street
damage
sweeper.
nowadays. Maybe use some
Resonant
pots, maybe do
slash.
you know, whatever is needed to be done in order
Street
for you
sweeper.
to get to maximize your damage throughput. But honestly, healing is almost non-existent on
Arcane
this boss,
lockdown.
except for this mass dispel that is required, and then topping people up.
Resonant
You
slash.
could make sure to have atonements applied
Street
to
sweeper.
people before the arcane thingy happens, just so you know everybody's kind of like
Resonant
healthy and topped
slash.
up, because that allows you to do a quick mass dispel and then into
Street
penance, which just
sweeper.
tops everybody up, makes them all nice and healthy, and in case you miss someone, they won't like die, because this does deal a lot of
Arcane
damage.
lockdown.
Mass dispel is just kind of like a cheat code for it, but
Flask of the
you know,
Solemn
it
Night.
does deal quite a bit of damage, so you do have to be careful there.
Quelling strike. Charging station. Wild
Honestly,
detonation.
these packs are
Wild
pretty
detonation.
chill.
Fortification. Suppress.
know? It's this dungeon is kind of
Charged
awkward with
smash.
bloodless
5,
timings, because
4, 3.
Charging station.
you know, everybody says that we want shorter dungeons, but the thing with like 30-minute dungeons is you can only fit like 2 good bloodlusts, so you gotta be really picky on what you want to bloodlust. In this dungeon, obviously on Tyrannical, bosses are the correct choice. This week I would even say a second boss is better to bloodlust than third, in my opinion. Third boss used to be scary before the nerf, when they fixed the illusions doing extra damage and stuff. Nowadays, as long as people are positioned properly, as long as you bait the illusions properly, and obviously if you don't get one-shot by the lines on the floor, which nobody should, you're pretty chill. It's a pretty
Searing
chill
glare.
boss fight. I'll talk about it when we get there more. It's
Ice storm. Ice storm.
the damage is kind of periodic. What I mean by periodic is it's a ticking AoE
Searing glare.
damage, but it gets harder and harder the further the fight goes, because there's more illusions, right? Obviously they expire, so you know you don't get overwhelmed ever, but it kind of stays at the same level. I think after the third wave, correct me if I'm wrong, But basically, first one is kind of free, then second one is kind of sketch, third one you really need some CDs for that, and so on and so on. So what I prefer to do is, for the first one I don't do anything big, maybe Shadow Covenant into like Schism Penance, usually we'll cover it. Then for the second one you can do like Vampiric Embrace and then another Shadow Covenant if it's up, and you know, some obviously Mindbender, use it as much as possible. With the cooldown reduction talent, you want to be almost using Mindbender on CD, honestly. Unless you're saving Mindbender for something specific. Like if you're saving your Mindbender for something specific, that perfectly makes sense. You know that's allowed. And here I make a giga play. I pop Fade, otherwise I would have pulled. I think we were pulling this anyway, but that was terrifying. That was kind of sketch. But yeah, just, you know, if you're saving Mindbender for something, feel free to do that. That is completely fine. However, for the most part, you want to be using it on cooldown just to maximize your throughput throughout the dungeon, you know. Simply having like Mindbender plus Power Word Shield on your tank will most of the time keep them absolutely healthy even on fortified weeks. And then, you know, just dealing damage passively with some smites, penances, purge the wickeds. And on top of that, of course, when you have Mindbender up, you want to be casting those Mind Blasts and Shadow Word Deaths, right, to trigger the slashes of the Mindbender. So that makes perfect sense. Try to do that as much as possible. Yeah. And here, I think if you're in a coordinated group, you can tank this easily. As you can see, I tanked it, and it's completely fine. Even if everybody tanks it, I can just pop some CDs, and it's completely chill. But in an uncoordinated group, I don't know, like I don't want to tell people tank it and then, you know, somebody will die because they're squishy or something and then people get tilted, so maybe it's better for people to hide. Ultimately, in Court of Stars, most of the time timer isn't an issue. Most of the time. Sometimes it is, but I don't really think I've done many Court of Stars where timer was tight. Although, to be fair, in this one, we actually will have some sort of like stall somewhere. I don't remember where, but I know we will lose a little bit of time somewhere, and then we'll have to. It will be quite tight towards the end, but overall, I think it was quite okay. Here, of course, you know, make sure you're not mass dispelling. I mean, mass dispel if needed, but you know, make sure you're dispelling. Don't leave Bewitched on people. Nobody likes it. Just interrupts necessary, just dealing damage, you know, chilling, it's pretty chill, don't get locked out. I always get locked out by this mini boss. It's, look, oh, I wasn't locked out this time, nice. But yeah, it's combination with Quaking and these like lockout mechanics is pretty annoying, honestly. Like it feels like you can never cast. It's pretty stupid, but you know, it is what it is. It's honestly not that hard to deal with it, so you know, if you pay attention, you will be fine. And here, you know, just chilling, as I said, just doing some damage, not getting locked out. Wow. As you can see, like all of these AoE, like one Radiance covers it, Radiance into Penance and stuff. It's just pretty chill. And here we do a spicy, like, Enforcer pull.
Bell detonation.
Once again, pretty chill.
Whirling blades.
Nothing to worry about. Watch out for the blades. Wasn't the best angle to see where the blades are, but I was pretty confident and I was out of it.
Bell detonation.
And then if I died, I would have complained that the game is bad, of course. Classic, you know. But yeah, watch out for spirits. Also, this week is just kind of annoying. Like spirits and Quaking both. Like if you think about it, they don't do much to increase the difficulty of anything, but they do so much at the same time. If that makes sense, like. They feel like they're not doing much, but then you have situations where, you know, you'll be like locked out by spirits from one location and then Quaking hits and everybody's stacking for a mechanic and it's just awful. And I think the reason why people hate these mechanics is, I think if you're like a pusher, you actually like these mechanics because they don't make the keys harder numbers wise. In fact, they even make it easier because you can like get resources off of ghosts and stuff. However, if you're like, let's say like casual or half casual player and stuff like that, like it's pretty difficult because
Fell detonation.
The way to deal with these affixes is just kind of experience. You just kind of like learn throughout the time exactly how to
Disintegration beam.
deal with things, and
Fell detonation.
honestly like it's not difficult as long as people are kind of on the same page and nobody's being like full on Pepega mode, you know,
Fell detonation.
running around like crazy and stuff. Like,
Disintegration beam.
everybody should be aware, you know, when the ghosts are chasing them. I think there is
Disintegration
even like a bunch of weak auras for that nowadays,
Fell
which will
detonation.
tell you you're fixated and stuff. And then obviously with Quaking you can get weak aura for that, you know. As far as I know, there's no guaranteed way to know when it's gonna quake, but there's a timer which tells you when the quakings are possible, and you can kind of just plan around that. It's honestly pretty cool. I used to do it in Shadowlands. I don't track it anymore. I don't know why, actually. I think I was just lazy to reinstall the weak aura, because most of them weren't working properly for me. But I know there's working ones. I've seen like streamers use them and stuff. So there's definitely some. And yeah, here just, you know,
Shockwave.
this guy's gonna jump around. He's gonna try to, you know, be real annoying, and our job is to kind of not get hit by things. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Again, trying to maximize your damage here. The damage is actually quite low in this dungeon. I feel like you can definitely do way more damage with this build on Court of Stars specifically. I'm not really sure why it was so much lower than it usually is. It could perhaps be like a case of just me playing it a little bit too safe, you know, just trying to not grief and stuff. But I definitely feel like I could have done at least like 22, 23k. And right now I'm doing like what, less than 20k? Yeah, that is pretty unusual. I usually finish keys at around 20k, I think. But perhaps, you know, a little bit of perhaps like an optimal gameplay, plus on top of that a little bit of you know, just making sure people are alive. It wasn't the cleanest dungeon either. Like, we had some deaths and wipes and stuff like that, so these things are always gonna put you off a little bit, you know. They make you worried as a healer, at least for me. You know, when I see my DPS dying, even if it's not my mistake, I usually kind of try to overheal a little bit, you know, so just so they kind of know, you know, that I'm there or whatever, you know. It's, I think like psychological aspect in these video games actually matters. It's, you know, people don't like to admit that, but you know, things get into your head, you know. You don't want anybody to feel like they can trust you to do your job and stuff like that, so just, you know, sometimes doing a little bit of overhealing and stuff is okay, I guess. It's not ideal, but I don't think you should do this. It's just, I'm just saying, like, this is probably like my weakness sometimes a little bit as a player, to allow that to happen, you know, to let others influence me and stuff. I guess everybody has that to an extent.
Infernal eruption.
Withering Soul isn't the worst thing that can happen here, by the way. Even if it goes through, you can always mass dispel it, and you know, you can use a barrier here. It's a good time to use it after he applies dot or when he casts the ads. And here, there it went through, so pretty chill. And then some more burning, intensifying thingies. You know, I usually make sure I have Radiance cast right as it applies, and then I try to just DPS, and it's most of the time it's enough. As you can see, it's pretty chill. I think with 2 paladins as well, you know, that's 2 immunities and 2 off healing, 2 people off healing, so it all helps, you know. And as a priest here, honestly, I don't know how much you can do. My favorite thing to do is to just make a mistake straight away, or like, I'll try to guess the first one, you know, and if I get it, I get it. But otherwise, it's the best type of like time loss, not time loss, but like time win is if you just make a mistake for your team, because you're slow anyway, so they're not gonna get a lot of value out of you. Honestly, we are probably the slowest class. I don't know if there's like any class that's slower overall than us. Maybe DK. Maybe DK actually. Yeah, DK could be slower, but I think with that's advanced, they might actually be faster overall. We do have Angelic Feather, so it's not like all, you know, pointless, but ideally, you know, you just find clues, somebody makes a mistake, so you get short RP. I should probably clarify that, like, if you get the spy wrong and you get kicked out, then you get shorter RP before the final boss. And the other way to get a shorter RP before the final boss is by letting one of the pillars stay up on the first boss. So when he calls reinforcements, the reinforcements actually comes. That means you left one pillar up. If you actually do that, then you will have shorter RP. And here I was just checking items, you know, like I still need this trinket. It never drops. Infernal Writ. Honestly, Flask of Solemn Night is also not bad, but Infernal Writ is what I'm after. It's just never dropping, so unlucky, I guess. And yeah, just DPSing here again. Cool thing you can do here is whenever he casts Shadow Bolt Volley, you just Radiance and then Penance and everybody's topped up. Help with CC if necessary. We only have Fear. It's not much, but it's honest work. And just DPS, you know. Just do your regular,
Shadow
you
Bolt
know.
Volley.
Honestly, there's like so many different ways you can DPS. It's so interesting. I loved experimenting so far with like which build. It's not just which build feels the best in terms of damage numbers, but also which build feels the best in terms of damage numbers, but also allows you to heal and also allows you to kind of like be mobile at least a little bit, you know, for the mechanics. Because in the current dungeons, I feel like the biggest enemy, for me at least, maybe it's me as a player, but I feel like we don't really like to move too much, you know. We want to be able to cast, you know, our radiances and stuff, but it's not always easy. Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult to do that. It ain't always easy. No, sir. No. And here we're opening the door, just chilling, you know. As I said, this boss is, you can kind of split it in like these little sections of burst damage, and basically my rule of thumb is I want to make sure that for every one of them I have something, you know, like having stacks of harsh discipline
Enveloping Winds.
ready means a lot. Already that means a lot. Having your radiance charge ready means a lot.
Enveloping Winds.
And this is why you will see me like I'm not fully focused on just DPSing. I'm kind of pooling my resources, so I had them for this. And I can say like quick radiance,
Enveloping Winds.
and then smite, solace, mind blast, purge the wicked. Not ideal cast sequence, but it works. It's the first one, so it's pretty chill. Here I pop Schism, it's for damage mostly. And then we get another AoE soon. You know, Dispel tank, Dispel anybody who gets stunned. Ideally they will clear the pools around the floor, but that's not always the case. It all depends. As you can see, 1 Radiance and like 2-3 casts is mostly enough to top people up here. Also people need to use their defensives, of course, you know, not at start, but already on 3rd set and 4th set, already you should be seeing some increase in damage, even with the perfect baits. So you want to make sure that people are obviously topped up, but you also want to make sure they're aware of, you know, their responsibility to press defensives, and ideally, you know, even use health stones, health pots, whatever is available to them in order to survive. It's always individual responsibility to survive. Healers are there to help, of course, and to buy time, and they're responsible for you know, people surviving. But ultimately, like, if you stand in all the mechanics and stuff, you know, you can't be like, oh, I stood in fire and I got one shot, but it's healer's fault. Well, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. You know, it would be cool. Like, I wish I could control, you know, who lives, who dies, but we're not that powerful. At least not yet. And here you can see, like, I'm just saving like harsh discipline and radiance, and then, you know, schism.
Enveloping Winds. Blade Surge.
There we go. Honestly, that radiance charge was even late, to be fair. I think better cast sequence is schism to have the buff 1 second before the mechanic, and then radiance as the first tick hits. So you heal 2
Slice and
ticks
maelstrom.
and then
5,
penance with Shadow
4,
Covenant,
3,
and then you can
2,
throw in like some mind
Enveloping
benders,
winds.
mind
Blade
blasts,
surge.
whatever you have available. Like that is better. It's a little bit more like
You're
sharper, more a more bursty way to heal, but you know, it takes like knowledge of timers and stuff to do that. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Here's the damage breakdown as well if you're interested. I might do like a video analyzing damage breakdowns and stuff on how I did and whatnot. I can also do like some log analysis and whatnot. But I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys had fun watching. And you know, if you don't mind commenting, liking, subscribing, all of that is appreciated. And I hope to see you guys again. Thank you very much for watching. Much love guys. Bye bye.